Welcome into episode 8 of the Steadfast Brotherhood podcast. And we thank you for listening and supporting the show. Hope you've been encouraged by some of the testimonies we've had or some of the biblical conversations. We hope just to uplift and encourage and just push others forward in the faith. And we've got a special guest with us this week. I'm looking forward to. We got Jeff and Daniel back. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Same.
Short and easy. That was good enough.
Yeah,
right? We've got a special guest who is the focus, right? His name is Aryless Connor. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a powerful testimony, and I read over what you sent, and it's really looking forward to hearing you talk about it. And how this all got set up is pretty crazy. So, Daniel, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yep. So we had Michael Gowan on a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned Aryless and had him on my mind ever since. So Aryless and myself used to play basketball against each other. I don't know if he liked me or not, but it was church basketball, right? So somebody's getting through out. Yeah. But we had a fun time, and so Michael came on and he talked about Aryless, and then I was in Ace getting something, and I saw him walk in. I don't know, it's probably been 20 years.
At least 20 years.
And I said, Aryless, and he turned around and we talked for a minute, and I told him, I said, Michael mentioned your name, and he was like, well, y'all doing that podcast? I said, yeah. He said, I was about to ask Michael who did it. I'd been thinking about finding out. So I said, well, come on next week. He said, tell me where and when. So
it was funny because when y'all had Michael on, I was like, who is he talking to? It'd been so long since I'd seen you, I didn't recognize you. And I'm like, who is he talking to? And I started praying, God, maybe you want to lead me in that direction to give me the opportunity to be in this podcast. And I prayed about that ever since I saw Michael's, and
yeah.
I still couldn't figure out who he was talking to, and then there you were in Ace. It was crazy. I was like, man, this ain't nothing but God here, but
yeah,
it's crazy.
For sure.
Total God thing. So I'm going to let Aryless share his story. He's got a great testimony, and I've been encouraged just reading it. And so you can kind of take it away, and just wherever you'd like to start with it, go ahead, and we may ask some questions, just have conversation in between, but the floor is yours, Aryless.
Well, so I'm going to start by saying what you read may not be what I say, because it bounces around all the time. And also, before I even start, I want to say that after me and you talked, the next Monday, I had last Monday wasn't a good day for me, and I got really frustrated because I wanted things in Aryless's time again instead of waiting on God's time. And I was to the point that I was quitting CR, I was quitting school, I was not going to do this podcast, and just all these things. And it's because I got in my time frame instead of his, because something didn't work the way I wanted it to. And I just want to say that, I worked through that, and then I went and shared my testimony last night, and I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to do, and all that other stuff, as long as I don't get in my own way, then I'll be able to do these kinds of things. So, but I became really close to quitting all this last week because I got so frustrated.
That's a hard thing to do, us getting in our own way, or easy thing to do, us getting in our own way. That's such an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was over something so minute, and I'm like, man, I did all this, changing my whole life and getting straightened out to be a better version of what I was before I went where I went, and God's still not giving me what I want, that kind of attitude, and it didn't work the way I wanted it to, and but he saw me through that. He gave me the strength to make it through that, and I'm grateful for that, and I just need to learn to stay out of my own way, So, but so I just want. When I was a child, I didn't know, my life was pretty normal till I was 5, and it really wasn't normal then, but. Because with a name like Aryless, I didn't know that wasn't a normal name, at 5 years old, but I found out real quick that ain't a normal name, and I got teased a lot and whatnot. Changed schools a lot because my parents divorced when I was 5, and that's how my life changed. And we bounced around from town to town a lot, never fit in, and you wouldn't believe how many times it's how you say your name, and you think it doesn't bother you, but it does. It made me feel like I didn't belong. So at an early age, I started dealing with abandonment because my dad left. I couldn't figure out, why my dad didn't want to be with my mom. And then he went and married another woman, and he had a family. And, you know, my mom was doing the best she could to raise us. And so I had a not terrible childhood. I mean, my mom did the best she could, you know, but there was just stuff. I'm already adding this baggage on at 5 years old. I started adding all this burden on myself. Well, I don't add it, but, you know, it's getting piled up on me. And back then in the early 70s, I hate to say that because I sound old, but in the early 70s, you didn't talk about things like that. You know, it was really the if you want to cry, I'll give you something to cry about attitude. But, you know, my mom, single, two boys, and we struggled. I can remember when we were living in Rock Hill, my grandfather drove all the way from Pelzer to down there just to bring us some food. You know, my dad's dad, because my dad was across town, and he wasn't even taking care of us, you know. It's crazy. And some of this might be a little emotional for me, so.
Take your time.
So, nevertheless, it was just always, I never felt like I was measured up to the other kids, you know, and I always wanted to be part of the cool kids club. And it was hard. I always tried to do whatever. I had to have Nikes like everybody else had Nikes, even though we couldn't afford them, you know. And that's when Nike first came out. I remember when Nike first came out. So I know y'all ain't that old, but
You're telling on yourself too much here, man.
I know, right? But once I got to high school, things seemed to normal out a little bit because we moved back to Greenville when I was in 7th grade. So I got in with these guys, you know, Mike Kennedy, as we was speaking of, Brian Miller and all them. They were all my buddies in school. But I was hiding a lot of things about my insecurities, and, you know, I didn't feel like I fit in with these guys. But I was trying really hard, you know, and trying to fake it till I make it. And
Yeah, I was like, brother, you're our older guy, but I'm pretty sure every kid does this in school. How are you hiding your insecurities?
Well, back then it was like, I don't know. I was angry. I talked down about other people or call out their
Whatever's wrong
their
with them.
flaws, you know, make fun of people, whatever it may be, you know. And that's not who I was inside, but that was my coping mechanism. But also, you know, back when all this was going on, I was at my mom's house, and when I lived with her, you know, we go to church, we do the right thing and all that. But I'd go to my dad's, and it was, you know, do what you want to do. I mean, I can remember my dad hooking me up with girls back in the day, and that's not, you know, there was always alcohol around my dad's house. There was cigarettes. There was pornography. I was learning all the things there about how not to live my life. And then when I come back here and I'm trying to fit in with these other kids that I didn't have the same thing as them, I lived a lie a lot. I lied about a lot of things, you know, and then I was scared my parents here in Greenville were going to find out. Not my dad. I didn't care if he knew, you know.
And at this time, was he still in Rock Hill? Or was he?
He was actually living in Asheville at the time. Okay. Man, we've moved all over. Seriously, I mean.
So there was a little distance between the two.
Yeah, and he wasn't, but he came around, but I can remember my mom saying that, you know, my dad was ordered to pay child support, and she put him in jail one time for not paying child support, and sent me and my brother cried and wanted to know why she did that. And she never did it again. So she just suffered silently and trying to make it work because she didn't want, and I didn't know that at the time.
Didn't want to upset you and your
right.
brother. Wow.
So that was a big burden she took on to.
Now, having those parents like that, do you feel like you were living two different lives?
Oh, 100%.
Or were you one more than the other? Because it sounds like your mom tried to keep you in church.
Yeah.
And your dad was trying to show you, quote unquote, how to be a man in the secular world. So
you're right.
Was that difficult as a young teenager to live both, or were you trying to want one more than the other? Did you feel a conviction at the mom's house that, hey, I think I need to go this way, but Dad's way is just more fun?
Well, I did want to be what I was at my mom's house, but man, the sin and the all the stuff at my dad's. I mean, it's like they say, it's fun till it ain't. You know, and that's what it was. And when I get mad at my mom and stepdad, I'd threaten to go live with my dad. You know, and I think every kid does
Difficult,
that.
every kid. Yeah.
Well, you ain't gonna give me what I want, so I'm gonna go this way. But yeah, I was definitely living a lie. You know, I mean, I was this person here and this person over there, and I didn't want the two to meet either. You know, so and that carried well into my adulthood as well. You know, looking back on it, I think my whole thing was double identity, and all of it was trying to be accepted. When I went to my dad's, I wanted to be accepted by those people, so I behaved the way they did. And when I was here, I wanted to behave so I could be part of that clique too, you know. So I was looking for acceptance the whole time. And
Which
really,
all stemmed back from your father leaving you.
Yeah. I just wanted to be wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to belong. And it was just, man, it was, at the time I didn't realize that's what was happening, but, you know, that's what it was. But then I started lying to my parents about, you know, my mom, when I would go and do things I wasn't supposed to be doing here, I wasn't telling her. I can remember me and my buddies riding around for not hours, but eternity, making sure, now you tell this lie and I'm going to tell this lie. So if my mama calls your mama, then, you know, we're on the same page. And it was all a lie just to be accepted. And so that leads me to joining the Marine Corps. I thought, man, if I just go join the Marine Corps, you know, I'll be part of something then, and I'll be part of a group. And I was, and I mean, I loved my Marine Corps. I mean, it made me a better person in the long run. It didn't help with my addiction problem that came after that, because our hobby was, you know, drinking when we weren't.
I tell these guys, because I'm United States Army veteran, and when we all come in, we'd ask new guys, hey, do you smoke? They'd say no. Do you drink? No. We'd say you will.
Exactly.
Because it's part of the culture, so I understand where
really
you come from.
And so when the Marine Corps didn't satisfy that for me, I started dating a girl in Williamston, and this is kind of when I got part of it. I married a girl on the wrong side of the river is what I tell people all the time, because I grew up on the Greenville County side, you know, and she's from Anderson County.
Hey now.
But no, she was a good woman, and she come from a really strong background in the Church of God. And I thought, well, you know, I'm marrying a good church-going girl, and, you know, things are going to go well. You know, I've made it now.
Is that what you were looking for? Because Marine life, I know how you jarheads are.
Right. No,
it's a little wild and crazy, and then you're still getting drunk back to a woman of faith at the time.
Right.
Is that something you think you were longing for in a wife that you knew because of your upbringing from your mom, or is it something, again, that God's convicting you to pull you into something else and trying to use her through, or trying to use her in a way?
At the time, that's not what I was after when I started dating her. I was after something totally different. And I didn't realize just how good a godly woman she was, and I didn't appreciate that about her because I was after selfish motivations. It was still all about Aryless at the time, and you know, I was still living a life with her when I was working and going to meetings and stuff. When I say meetings, I'm talking about work meetings. I would go off and I would drink, but I'd come home and I wasn't drinking and I wasn't doing any of this stuff. I was being I was still living this double life, right? If I'm out of state on a convention or whatever it may be, working out of town, I'm living the same lifestyle I was when I was younger at my dad's house or when I was in the Marine Corps. And I come home and I was, good guy, all the things. And you can't live that way long. You're going to crash, And we had two different ideas of what it took to make a marriage work. Number one, I didn't have a good foundation of how to treat a woman. I mean, I saw it in pornography magazines. I saw it with the way my dad treated women and whatnot. So I didn't have a good foundation, and she did. And when she wasn't doing the things I wanted to do, then I'm like, well, this ain't working for me. So we had our first daughter, and things were good. And then we started back in the same routine of me doing the things I wasn't supposed to do, but her never knowing about it. And there would be times that she would run into a few things that would make her question, but I was never fully exposed. And then after our second child, I couldn't live it anymore, and I left. My youngest daughter was 18 months old when I left the marriage, because I just wasn't happy. But I wasn't happy because I wasn't seeking what God wanted in my life. I was seeking what Aryless wanted. I was talking about wanting things Aryless's way, and I was still doing that then, And I can remember being in Columbia. Me and my stepbrother started going to a lot of Carolina football games. And I can remember being in Columbia, and this girl that was hanging out with us at tailgating, and I'm going to say this, I don't know if I should say it, but she was sitting on my cooler of beer, right? And I said, hey, can you hop up and let me get a beer? And she said, well, you're going to have to get it a different way. Let me say it that way. And I can remember at that moment I said, God, I can either go home and work on the things I need to work on, or I can chase this sin, because I knew this was a aha moment, like this is where we going one way or another now.
And you knew this at this time?
Yeah, I remember thinking, if I do this, this is past the point of no return as far as my marriage went, and sure enough, it was. And I'd like to say I chose the godly way to do things, but I wouldn't be sitting here on this couch today if I'd have chose the right one. So shortly after that, the marriage spiraled out of control, and I'll take, they say that it takes two to make a marriage work, but I'm going to take 98% of the responsibility for why it didn't work. Now, there's a lot in her 2%, but I'm taking the biggest part of that, because it was me. I wasn't living the life that I needed to be living. So, this is when I went into a really, and Daniel will tell you, when I was in Williamston and all, I mean, I was a regular.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I was, one of the guys. I still had this, like, I don't belong. But you cover it up. You don't tell nobody, But I was, I lived on the do-good street and did all the things. But inside I was just a mess.
I mean, you're in church, Whitefield, playing basketball 2 nights a week. Like, you just a normal dude, right? Like,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I had it. It looked, from the outside, it looked like I had it going on. But inside, man, I was so messed up, it wasn't funny. And so when that lifestyle, talking about Columbia and the way that all happened, for the next 20 to 25 years, man, it was just like all about the alcohol and the women and whatever felt good. That's where I was. And it took me a lot of places. I lost a killer career. I mean, a killer career. I gave up being around my 2 beautiful children every day, and I became all the things I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be my dad. I became my dad. I was an absent father. I was out partying and doing all these things, and I was so far from God. It was just unbelievable. I tell everybody all the time, except I don't know if my kids know this, so they probably know it now, but I think I've told one of them, I don't know, but alcohol was always my thing. But if I'd have been rich, it probably would have been something else, but I couldn't afford it, so I didn't mess with that. But I did everything just to be a part of that scene. And then I actually felt like I fit in when I was doing that stuff. And I felt like I was managing my life okay. I've lost a great career. I'm bouncing around from here to there. Had multiple trips to jail for little petty stuff, and just all over the place. It was just I was a train wreck, but in my mind I thought, well, I'm managing, I'm okay, and I was nothing even close to okay. And near the end of my alcoholism, I was drinking probably 20 to 25 Fireball mini bottles a day. That's while I was at work. And then I would go to the bar, hang out there till they shut down. And I'm driving this whole time too, by the way. I mean, how I didn't ever get a DUI and never got in an accident where I killed me or someone else. God was in my life that whole time, and I didn't even realize it. And I knew that I was away from God, and I wanted to get back to God, but I was so deep in the addiction at this point that, I couldn't. I had no, well, I felt like I couldn't, let's say. And then one Friday night, been out and woke up the next Saturday morning, and man, I was sick. I was so sick. And I told the girl I was with that at the time, I said, man, you're going to have to take me to the hospital. And she said, you got to go to the hospital? And I said, you need to take me to the hospital now. And I get to the hospital, and they take me in the ER, and they don't even take my temperature. Don't even take my temperature. Don't check my pulse, nothing. They say, we hope that you're planning on staying with us a few days. I was there for 2 weeks. And they said, well, you got alcohol-induced hepatitis. Mm. And I said, oh man, what's that mean? They said, well, you need to quit drinking. I said, okay. And they said, if you quit drinking now, you'll be all right. And I said, okay, well, they call that a practice of medicine, right? So a couple weeks after I get out of the hospital, I'm feeling good again. I'm like, man, they didn't know what they was talking about. They missed on me. I'm not sick. So I started drinking again. And it's really crazy how the enemy makes you think that that's enjoyable, and that you're in a good place when you're with the boys and hanging out and all. And that run didn't last but about maybe 3 to 4 weeks, I guess, maybe.
How old were you during all this?
No, this was 3 years ago.
Oh wow, so very recent. Okay.
Yeah. And so I went back to drinking, and then I was back in the hospital again. And I was at Baptist in Columbia. And they told me this time, said, you got cirrhosis of the liver. Said, you got about 30 days to live, so you need to go ahead and get all your stuff together and figure out what's going on. And this is where the but God part comes in, because it's 3 years later, and here I am. Mm-hmm. And but anyway, so they started calling everybody in, and all these people started coming that I hadn't seen in a long time. Mike Kennedy, several people, Timmy and Wendy Heatherly. But anyway, my daughters were in the hospital and with me, and they said, Dad, why don't you just move back to Greenville, since you only got this, that way we don't have to come back and forth to Columbia, and when you die, then it'll be easier to make the arrangements if you're here. And so I came back to Greenville. And, well, first, I almost forgot this part, but so when they left that night, I started praying. I'm like, man, God, I don't know how I got to where I'm at, but I don't want to be here. And I don't have the strength to stop this. I can't. I've already proven I can't stop it. I mean, and I prayed that for quite a while that night. And when I got done with that prayer, I just felt this peace about me, you know? And I didn't know at the time that the journey was over as far as the drinking and all that lifestyle, but it was. But I felt so peaceful. I knew something was different. And I got out of the hospital and I came back to Greenville. And Mike Morris has been a friend of mine all through this whole time. You know, I didn't have many friends left, but I did have him, and he's the preacher at Oak Point Church over in Pelzer. And he kept saying, man, why don't you come on and go to church? And we got this thing on Monday night. It's called Celebrate Recovery. Why don't you come hang out and do this with us? And at first I was like, yeah, I'll go, you know. And I was going just because Mike wanted me to go, basically. But I started getting involved with this Celebrate Recovery. And now I was still sick a lot, too. And I went to a meeting one night, and I told Mike, I said, man, you're going to have to take me to the hospital. I said, I'm not feeling good. And he said, you got to go to again? I said, yeah, man, you need to take me. It was right in the middle of a meeting. And he loaded me up and took me up there. And I was in there about another 10 days, but I was getting better. But, man, it's a journey to get better from that. Good Lord, it's crazy. Yeah, he took me to the hospital. And when I got out this time, I went back to CR, and everybody in there said, man, we didn't expect to see you. We figured you was going to the hospital to die. I mean, that's how, bro, I'm telling you, I got a picture on my phone. I wish I could show it to you, but I was sick, man. I could have gave the sun a day off, and y'all would have never missed it. It'd still been daylight out here because that's how yellow I was. I mean, it was crazy. And, you know, they were sticking these big needles in me and draining off liters and liters of fluid because my liver wasn't working. But all I can say is but God, because if I go to the gastroenterologist now, they say, last time I went, they've released me since. But she called another doctor in there and said, how's this guy like he is? Because, you know, I was goner because I wasn't eligible in that first 30 days time, I wasn't eligible for a liver transplant because you got to be 6 months sober to be able to do that. And so here I am today, 3 years later, or 2.5, almost 3. I'm part of a leadership group at Celebrate Recovery, and I tell people all the time, Celebrate Recovery didn't fix me. God fixed me through the program of Celebrate Recovery. And I think every church, I don't care where you are, drugs and alcohol and hurts, habits, and hang-ups are a problem for everybody. And if you don't have a recovery program, then you're not really serving the people that in your midst, because we walk around them every day, and you don't have any idea what people are going through. And but God's been good, man, and I get to go around talking about how God's still in the miracle working business, and His grace and mercy has been plentiful in my life.
I want to go back to your Marine Corps service during that time because you wanted to get accepted. Was it acceptance as far as like you're wanting a brotherhood because you liked it in your younger years, or was it an exception of feeling accomplished for yourself so that back in mind, hope Dad's proud of me, so he want me, or was it? Because I think a lot of things. So my dad died when I was 7, and I had kind of like the same struggles, like just didn't know where I kind of fit because there was no strong representative of a dude in the house.
Right.
So when I joined the Army, it was for selfish reasons.
Mine was totally.
But man, when I got
selfish.
done, I missed that brotherhood. Like there was just nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to it. Even though all of it's not good things. You know, it's fun things, but it's not always a good thing.
Yeah, it's not always the best moral decision. But it was all about selfish. I wanted to prove that I was as good as, and if I could do parasailing, man, I could do anything, and it was about accomplishment. But I still got people that I talk to every day that were with me, so it's not that but it was more about just being part. And, I mean, the persona then was, man, Marines, they're.
Yeah, change socks, drink water.
Yeah.
All right, don't talk about it. Everybody's got problems.
Yeah, right. So. But
now, do you think that played a part in the mask wearing when you came home? Now you're a Marine.
Oh, yeah,
home.
yeah.
I'm not a civilian. I got everything under control.
Yeah.
All those times. Because I think I know there's been a lot of veterans watch this. And we have that problem. I always told Pastor Chad when I came to him, I hate the word surrender. I hate it.
Yeah.
Get it out my way. Get it out my mouth. I don't like it because it makes me feel weak. And I got to put on this front. I'm a law enforcement officer as well for almost 20 years. So those things of surrender, give up, that's what it sounds like, give up.
And that's funny because that's all
it.
God wants us to do. And if we do that, I mean.
Well, how did I know medically and health-wise that might have brought you to that point. How did you come to this point at your age and everything that you've been through to surrender and to want to do this?
But, people say that all the time. Well, if you got to a place you were medically, it was easy. It still wasn't easy because the mindset is still, I got to have that alcohol. Just somebody telling you it's going to kill you, don't make it easy. Because, like I said, after the first time I was in the hospital, I went right back out to drinking as soon as I felt good. So it's not, oh, you better stop. So I think I just got tired of doing that. And when I finally surrendered, and people in the community who talked about me all the time, and I thought nobody knew what I was going through. They were talking about me, but when I told my story for the first time, and I surrendered, I was like, okay, God, use me, and I surrendered. Then I felt more freedom than I ever felt in my life because you couldn't talk about me no more because I done told the unadulterated full version, and probably what you was telling probably wasn't the whole truth. So let me just go ahead and tell you the way it really was. Right. And I dealt with the feeling like, oh man, I don't want people to know, and I'm gonna look weak, and I'm gonna cry when I'm up here. But I don't think that's the strongest thing I ever did was to surrender. That's not. I mean, I know you hear people say it all the time, but I'm telling you, I know for a fact the hardest thing I ever did over parasailing and anything is surrender. But when I do, it became so easy. And I don't even think about that life anymore.
Now, during this time, because you said your mom was pretty strong in her faith.
Yeah,
Probably typical Southern woman. She wasn't the one to hire the hair close you are to God type lady, was she? No.
And then my stepdad was real close to him.
Okay.
Faith,
And then your ex-wife was.
Oh yeah.
Very strong. So, I mean, you can answer if you don't, but how are you and your ex-wife's relationship at this point now?
Now?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say it's great, but we can be in the same room. We can be at the kids' thing, and we speak. Listen, everything's been restored, and it's not. And that's what upset me the other day. That made me so mad because God's not always on my schedule, and I'm trying to talk to him, and tell him, hey, if you go with me, we'll get it done a lot quicker, But he don't listen. But it's getting better,
Well, the reason I asked you is because I find, like, again, where you come from, just a little bit of this story is probably at some point you did have a type A personality. You're just trying to figure out who you were, right? And it's hard. It's easy for me to tell people that I can forgive you. Like, Chris, I forgive you because I'm in control of saying that. But for me to really humbly go out my way, in your case, and tell your ex-wife or your daughters or whoever that's close to you to say I'm sorry, was that a huge struggle for you to
in the beginning?
Not just saying it, but just meaning it.
In the beginning it was, but when I said that a minute ago about me taking 98% of ownership of the reason the marriage failed, that's me trying to say, hey, you know what? I own this. This is my fault. I did this. And if I would have worked as hard on things I should have done back then, I wouldn't be in the position I am. But I'm trying to apologize to anybody and everybody, because I know. Listen, my path of destruction is far and wide. You know, it covers many counties and whatnot. It's
Okay.
But yeah, it was hard to. At first, it was hard. And I think too, you know, working with Celebrate Recovery, I see a lot of people from a lot of different things, and things that I thought, man, I could never accept their path has been. But at the end of the day, man, their sin is the same as mine, you know, and I have to forgive everybody and be okay with they're just lost and struggling like I was, you know. It's not easy all the time, but.
And then I'll probably wrap up one of my other questions. Again, this whole thing of Steadfast Brotherhood podcast, right? And what I'm learning mostly coming back in my faith is we're not built to be alone. God doesn't call us to be by ourselves, right? I think I did find that in the military. I have found that in law enforcement. But there was like that little bit of that one spice of that recipe that just wasn't, you know, making that food just really, really good. And I come in this room and I'm meeting Chris, and here we are sitting in a podcast. Met Daniel last year during a men's conference, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these guys. And I talked about the fact that got baptized a couple weeks ago, and you know, it was not the women that was reaching out to me. You know, it was all the dudes in this church that I've grown, you know, to be friends with. And has that come from the Marine Corps? Because I'm y'all crayon eaters love that EGA. So having that, even though certain things wasn't good, there's something that your brothers in that unit would call you out on, would fight you over, but turn around, love on you, and fight for you. Mm-hmm. And during that time of exiting the Marine Corps, coming at the civilian world, one, I'm pretty sure you never had that feeling. And then now that you've saved, given yourself over, you've revisiting that feeling within the Christian lifestyle and within your church or in your community that you've
absolutely. And I'll tell you, my biggest accountability person he'll tell me flat out is Mike Morris. Mike will tell me, and Timmy Headley will tell me too. You know, I got a lot of people they will say, hey, you need to check what you're doing here. But they also gonna love on me and part of a group, and we do things together and we talk on a daily basis. And I'll tell you something that was hard for me to in the beginning too with this new brotherhood is I had to be okay. Not that I didn't love them, but I tell them, you know, on a regular basis on the phone, hey man, I love you. And that's okay to say that, you know. As guys, we think it ain't okay, but it is. We can say those things because this guy has done a lot for me, and he's been a big, huge influence in my life, and I do love him, you know.
I agree with it. I mean, because there's something like being in a uniform of any color or any pattern is you earn that brotherhood and that trust by fighting, by getting into something, by, you know, tense and adrenaline rush situations. And we forget that I love you part, and it's okay to just go hug a guy and tell him I love you and really care about somebody.
Yeah.
And that was my curiosity for most of our listeners, if we have veterans or people in the first response, that you can still get that touch of brotherhood.
Yeah.
Within this community,
and this brotherhood, and this brotherhood in the Christ following world is better and more meaningful than any brotherhood I've ever. I mean, I got a guy right now. I can call him and say, "Hey, man, I need you right now," and he's coming. And you know, and he was a lost sinner just like me, and he understands what my struggle is, and he's gonna be there, you know, and that means the world to know that I don't have to do this alone. I'm not alone, and God's gonna put the people around me that. If I listen to him, if I don't say, "Hey God, let's do it Aryless's way," but if I listen to him, he's going to put the people around me that I need in my life. You know.
Yeah, so, I think too, like you talked about how it's like we think about God's timing, and we're in such an instant society, and men especially are get things done. Like, that's one of my things. Like, I'm ready to get things done. Like, so I think we put a lot of that on ourselves, right? We don't, like, God's timing. Like, it took you a while for that path of destruction, right? So
quite a while.
Yeah. So when you do come around, you're like, hey, I'm good now. Like, you want it to now, right? Hey, Amazon, we'll have this thing delivered today. But it takes a little bit. And that's where the faith in God comes in to say, hey, I got to trust you. I'm going down this path. I've got to take myself out of the equation here, because I think a couple of weeks ago, Chad, he said, you got to lose to win. So, like, you just the submission part of this is key, right? So
that's so for me, I tell everybody all the time, I want all this stuff to be fixed now, but man, I didn't just drink one Friday night and wake up Saturday morning almost near death. That took like 20 plus years. So I went a long way down that other path. So it's going to take a while to restore all the things. And some people, I have to even be more aware of where they are. It's not just about where I'm at and what I want. It's about where they are in their walk too. Maybe that person's not in a place of forgiveness because their faith isn't where it should be. So they're not ready to buy into it wholeheartedly.
Right. And last week we talked about it a little bit. You got to be understanding.
Yeah.
Right. You got, hey, I'm good, but whenever, I understand that's where and if you're not understanding, I think that's when you get frustrated.
Yeah. Because it's, so I just lost my train of thought, but, Say what you said again, because I had something really good, and then that's part of the old age kicking in.
So I said, when you want, I don't even know what I said.
Two older people in the group.
Yeah, it's the older people. What did I say, Chris?
Something about understanding.
We had some technical difficulties with the computer and got us all whacked off. But no, I was talking about you wanting it fixed right then, and you want to be understanding. We talked about it last week about being understanding and knowing. You don't have to know everybody's situation, and everybody's situation ain't going to be.
I just thought of what I was going to say. I say all the time, there's some people out here that if they never spoke to me again as long as I'm on this earth, I earn that, They have the right to treat me that way.
Right.
And if they're not in their place of forgiveness through their faith, that they can forgive me, then I earned the way they're treating me. So
yeah, and at the end of the day, all you can do is apologize and say, hey, I've changed, and
they can accept it and forgive me, or they can't. But that's not on me at that point. But sometimes I want to grab it and say, God,
right,
you going to restore all things, it says. Well, you not restored this yet. What's happening,
So with everything's getting better with your ex-wife, your daughters you back up here now, your mom and stepdad. What about your dad?
My dad's dead.
Okay.
He died, I don't remember the years. I'm not good with that. My stepdad died, and my mom's still here. And, me and her, we're still in the part of recovering our relationship, because unfortunately, my path of destruction involved a lot of family and loved ones. I mean, it did, and I own that too.
Yeah.
And I would love for all that to go back to the way it used to be, but maybe that's not where God wants me to be. And I've had to accept it that way, that maybe that's just not God's plan for me. And if it's not, that's okay. I mean, I would like for it to be, but that's Aryless's want. So I'm going to quit with that, and let God work it out with them and with me, and wherever we end up, that's where we'll end up. I miss my younger brother and my mom a lot, but that's part of the choice I made.
Now, your younger brother, is he still around?
Yeah, he lives over in Possum Kingdom, so right across the street from where I grew up. So
And I probably should have answered this or asked this question earlier, but were you saved at all before this?
Oh yeah, I was saved at Washington Baptist Church back when I was younger, but needless to say, I went quite a ways off the path, and I'm grateful to be. Am I grateful for all the things I went through? No, but I am grateful for where the journey took me, because I have a empathy and a understanding of where people are now that I used to wouldn't have understood, because I used to be like, that guy's got a drinking problem. That just shows he's weak because he can't stop drinking, So now I have an empathy for those people, and I can be empathetic with them. I don't have to handle them with kid gloves.
Because you've been where they.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm gonna tell them the way it is. I'm not gonna candy coat it for them, but I understand, and I wouldn't have that if I wouldn't went down the road I went. And I really feel like now God didn't send me down this road; He allowed me to go, but I think He can use it at this point.
See, I'm glad that you said that, because I think that was a lot of my issues. And I think a lot of people have those questions. Well, if God is the know-all, be-all, He sent me this way. He could have stopped me at any point. I think for me, on part of my testimony, that's where I got angry. And anger kept me away from things. And it's just interesting you said it that way, because I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday about that. Why? Oh, if He's all, be-all, why did He do this? Type thing. So.
And to add to that, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, the day before, and the guy said God either allows it or authoritates it, and everything that He does, He's going to use for His glory.
Exactly.
Somehow. So that's the purpose of when something. I mean, you get that all the time. Well, why do you allow this to happen? And it's at some point He's going to use that for His glory.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's and I can't remember the name of the group that does it, but there's a song called "Though You Slay Me," and there's a pastor that talks in this one version of the song, and he puts it so plainly about just because a car careens off of a sidewalk and kills your wife as you're walking down the street with her, don't think it was meaningless, because it wasn't. It's going to be somewhere, somehow, it's going to be used for God's glory. And I listen to that song almost every day, because I think about, because I could say, dang, God, why? I could be mad at God.
Yeah, why did it take me 20 years to feel the way I felt?
Why'd I have to do all this?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't question the journey. I mean, I'm thankful for it, because I feel like I'm really in a place to do things to impact God's kingdom for the positive, because of where I've been.
So, and I know you chomping at the bit to say something.
Oh, no, you're good.
But as far as your health goes, I mean, you were yellow, okay? That's what you said earlier. And at the point of death 3 years ago, to how are you now?
I take one pill a day to take, and to be, if I gotta be careful who's listening, because I don't take it on a regular basis like I'm supposed to. Imagine that, men don't take their medicine, right? But I don't
Should
take
I
it.
ask that question? Cut this out.
But I don't take it as often as I'm supposed to. But I do all the things I want to do. I'm almost back to normal. And I'd say all the time, alcoholism or any kind of substance abuse disorder is the only, and I don't want to cross any lines and upset anybody. Some people consider it a disease, some don't. I think it's a disease that is a choice to begin with, and then it becomes a disease. That's the way I look at it. But this is the only disease or whatever that you can come back and be a better version of yourself than you were before you even had to, like cancer. I mean, you're gonna have
Something all the time.
But if you overcome alcoholism or substance abuse disorder, then you can be a better version of yourself. But medically, all I can say is it's God, because the doctors
Well, they gave you 30 days, right?
Yeah. I had Mike Kennedy came from the beach to tell me bye in the hospital. Wow. And I was just with him last night. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think God works in mysterious ways. And I was reading James this morning, and he talk about temptation and that sort of stuff. And, maybe going back to what you said about like, why did God allow this to happen? God's not the one that tempts us. Like, he reads that and makes us clear. It's our own fleshly doing. And, I've struggled with anxiety like my whole life. And I would always say, well, that's just how I was made. But I've realized, Katarina, my wife, would just like, no, stop saying that. And, it took me a while to process it. I'm like, you know what? That's not how God made me. That was maybe consequences of my choices, of things that I did where I just struggled with anxiety so bad. But like, that wasn't God's doing. Like, some of it's self-inflicted. I think we self-inflict ourselves a lot. And, it's all for God's glory, I believe. We go through things, we do things, we sin, and forgiveness is hard for us as humans. But for God, forgiveness is just who he is. And I heard this, I was listening to a podcast last night, and it was on this kind of topic of forgiveness. And it was like, we're all on a list of some sort. All our sin may be different. All the things we've done may be different, but we're all on some list. So we're called to forgive, others that hurt us, others that are doing things that we may look at and say, like, how in the world they do that? But, we're all sinners in God's eyes. We all fall short of his glory. And so, I've had to realize that, like, struggling with anxiety is like not how God made me. It's something that he uses as part of my story. There's other people that, I've been able to share with that struggle with that, but like, that's not how God made me. Some of that was self-inflicted of things that I did. And it caused me a long time and I still deal with anxiety, but it's not to the point where it was at one point where, cause I've learned that I can give it to God. And we read about anxiety, and I struggle with that too. Cause it's like, man, you read it, and it's like, some of the scriptures basically like, if you're anxious, you ain't fully trusting God. And that's hard to read, that's convicting. And so working through those things, I think God uses things we go through for a purpose and for his glory at the end of the day.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Y'all have anything else to add?
Well, if you had one thing to share with a younger you, for this younger generation, for normal civilians or guys getting out, veterans, what's the best thing you can tell them to help them be successful and to not go down more destructive path than what they're on? If you could revisit yourself or tell some other young Marine or veteran or anybody out there.
I think what I would say is have a strong Christian network established that you got to have people you can talk to. You got to have people you can call and say, hey, this is where I'm at, and and sometimes I just need prayer, but sometimes I may need you to come in where I'm at and hold my hand for a minute. I don't mean literally hold my hand, but I'm sitting here in the parking lot of XYZ, and I know I don't need to be here, so I need you to come get me and take me away. And I got guys that'll do that, and I'll do that for people. So I think you got to have a strong network. But then I'm also going to say, I had somebody the other day tell me that, I'm not going to be crazy about my drinking. Nobody wakes up to be an alcoholic. I mean, I didn't wake up and say, golly, boy, I want to go be an alcoholic today, So don't put yourself in that position to let it be, to gain that control over you. Don't even fool around with that stuff. I mean, I know it's socially acceptable, but man, what good does it do you? That's the only poison we actually knowingly put in our body. I mean, it's
legal.
That's legal, yeah. But it's crazy. But it's socially acceptable to put poison in our body if it's all for a good time. But just don't fool with that, and just be connected with God and God's people. That's my biggest thing, is the connection. Like you said, can't do it alone. We're not supposed to.
I think it's a good way to end it. Don't do life alone. So let's close in prayer. Do you want to pray and pray over anybody maybe that's listening that's been dealing with some stuff that you've gone through? And I think it'd be good to have you, if you would, close in prayer, Aryless.
Precious Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to share the things that transpired in my life. And I thank you for the fact that I was along for the ride because I didn't do any of this. You did it all for me. And Lord, to the young man that I was speaking with last night, Lord, I know he's struggling with sobriety. Lord, I ask that you just put your healing hand upon him and see him through to success with his sobriety. Lord, to all the other people out there sick and suffering and struggling, whether it be from anxiety, overeating, codependency, anything that is keeping them away from their walk with you, Lord, I pray that they find healing and understanding, and that they too can use their story to impact others that are struggling with the same thing. Lord, I pray for traveling mercy and grace over each and every man in here this morning. And thank you and praise you in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your story and testimony, man. There's a lot of power in that, but I truly believe God's going to use it for his glory. So I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us today. But it's been episode 8, and we'll see you guys next week.